Good morning and welcome back to my coverage of the 2023 Transcontinental Race. We're now on day 8 and let's have a little look at the tracker, see what's been going on. And we've had a bit of excitement over the last few hours. Now, as you can see, the gap has narrowed down slightly between Kristof and Robin Gemperle. This is all based around the parcours 4A and 4B that you can see here. Now, we talked about it a bit yesterday. I'll just bring up Ride with GPS just to make things a little bit clearer. So as you can see here, there's 2 parcours sections, so 4A and 4B, but essentially they don't connect together. So it leaves like a bit of open routing. So you could go straight up and over the mountain, which, as you can see on the surface indicator at the bottom here, is A, it's a massive mountain on the elevation, pretty much 2,000 meters, and B, it is very much off-road. Or you could go up the parcours, complete the parcours, turn around, go back down and loop around the road and then complete the other one, which is probably the safer option in terms of surfaces and more predictable, but going to be slower. And sure enough, we've seen the two riders, Kristof and Robin, take those two options. So Kristof has played it very safe and has done the gone up and down and back round, and Robin has taken a bit more of a risk. I mean, he's got nothing to lose now. This is just an overlay of their two routes. So you see Kristof went all the way around and Robin's gone straight up and over. He has managed to close the gap, although at this stage it's looking like it's probably not going to be quite enough to close back on Kristof and get the win. I think he's probably settled in for second position now. This was the key crux where I thought it could probably change. So yeah, it looks like Kristof is just about to reach the final checkpoint before the finish, and then hit parcours C. We'll dig into that in a second over on Ride with GPS. And yeah, it looks like it's, well, probably about a day left. I think Kristof has probably got this now. So before I check on the rest of the field, I'll just once more say thank you to Holy Fat for supporting me to do this. Obviously they're ranging nut butters and bars. I'll be taking a load of these with me on the Silk Road Mountain Race in a couple of weeks' time. Just really good fuel for those long, steady efforts, nut based. So yeah, really good stuff. So yeah, check those guys out if you're interested. And also, I'm just going to do some shameless self-promotion at the moment. I'm actually doing guiding a tour for Outer Detours, which is a new, I guess, travel company. They're based in the Canary Islands. If you've seen the Gran Guanche race, which is another fantastic bikepacking race, if you ever looking for an event to do across all the islands in the Canary Islands. Basically, this is a supported version of that. I'll be going along to the ride in March and I'll be guiding and sort of helping give knowledge to riders. So if it's the kind of thing that you're interested in, if you've been watching the Transcontinental Race and think, well, I'd really like to do the Transcontinental Race, I ride my bike quite a lot, but I don't quite know what the next step is. Well, maybe this is it, a supported ride, staying in hotels, going across all the Canaries. You'll get to do some really long high mountain passes, riding the heat, riding all conditions, and I'll be around to help with, impart some knowledge and guide the event. So I'll put the link down in the description for that. And yeah, that's enough about me. Let's get back to the race. And I thought that the best person to hear about what happened on that parcours, why Kristof decided to go round rather than through, is to hear from Kristof himself. And he's put a really good story on his Instagram explaining it. So let's just have a little listen, see what he says, his reasoning behind not going over the mountain and taking the longer route, and yeah, see what he says.
Now I'm finally riding the parcours 4 section from 4A to 4B. If you look at the map, parcours 4 is 3 segments, and the connection between 4A and 4B could be a gravel section over a 2,000 meter high mountain pass, or a long way around, which will cost you about 2, 3, maybe 4 hours more. So that's a difficult decision. But I chose the long way around because I'm not a good one on the gravel bike. I'm also not used to hiking or walking if necessary. So especially going downhill will completely kill my legs. And I also don't want to take the risk of damaging my bike. So I'm fine with the long way round. If Robin behind me takes the shortcut, he will come closer for sure. But my goal is to ride as fast as possible to stay in front, even if I do the long way.
So there we go. That was Kristof. He's taken a calculated risk. I think it's paid off. I mean, he's still got this massive gap. I've not actually seen what the gravel parkour is, or what that connector between the gravel connector between those two parkour is like at the moment. The only thing I've seen is this photo of Robin this morning. He looks tired. He looks like a guy who is 8 days into the Transcontinental Race. Looks like he's been up and over. Doesn't seem like he's had any issues. He seems to be rolling fine, but it's not been enough to close that gap. So I suspect it's probably quite a slow parkour, and it looks like he's probably only closed a couple of hours on Kristof, and his lead at this point was so big that it's not made a difference. Now it might make a difference further down the field where we've got some closer racing. I'll go and just touch on the rest of the field now, and then we'll dive into the rest of the route over on Ride with GPS and see what the leaders and the rest of the field have over the next day or so as they head towards Thessaloniki for the finish. So the big news is, Marin St-Exupéry was kind of leading the chase pack as such, but he unfortunately is a bit ill. So he put an Instagram story. He's basically, I've been missing some fire since the beginning of the race, but this morning every bit of energy had left my body. He needs some rest. So he's stopped in Pishkopi after the checkpoint, or after the parkour, after checkpoint 3. I know Marin fairly well. I've been in touch with him, and he said he's just not been feeling very well from the start, which is a real shame for him, because I really did rate him for, a top finish in this event. And I know if he was unwell and he's been pushing that pace, then I think it just shows what he could have done. But that's it on these races. You've got to keep healthy. You've got to look after yourself, and that's as much a part of it as pedaling your bike really fast. So he's currently holed up in Pishkopi. He's kind of dropped out of the race for the podium. But now we've got two riders basically fighting for that final podium position, and they look like they're pretty much neck and neck. Bearing in mind there'll be a slight delay on the trackers here, so they could be riding almost together now. So Tim Devitt and Anatol Niemi, sorry for butchering your name, but these two guys here, they're neck and neck heading into this parkour. So are we going to see the same again? Is one going to go around? Is one going to go over the mountain on the gravel? That's going to be really interesting to see tomorrow, and that could be the difference between like a third and a fourth place in the Transcontinental Race. They have a fairly decent gap, 20 or so miles, maybe 30, taking into account the mountain roads, between them, and basically these guys are sort of hot on their heels. Again, they could close down this gap if they take a risk and go over that mountain for the third place. So Will Vosman, Robert Muller, he's actually so he won he beat Christof Strasser actually in the Bihard Ultra Race. I touched on it yesterday in Bosnia earlier in the year, but he seems to have had a rough time and got in a bit of a bad mental place. If you listen to the Transcontinental Race podcast, they spoke to him a few times. He just he seems a bit down. But he's still flying into a top result at the Transcontinental Race, and finishing strong in the Transcontinental can gain you a lot of places. So keep an eye on him over the next few days. Will Vossen's in there as well. His Croatia route didn't cost him too much time in the end, thankfully, because that's the route I would have taken as well. So he is now, Will Vossen's in 5th. So yeah, still all to play for. I mean, a top 10 in the Transcontinental Race is a hell of an achievement. Further down the field towards checkpoint 3 and parkour 3. Well, actually, on the women, this race is hotting up as well. First woman on the road is still Sherry. She's riding as a pair with her partner Geron. They're doing a fantastic ride, and they're probably going to be top 20 overall, which is almost unheard of for pairs racing. It's normally slows you down riding in a pair, but they seem to really excel together. Jamie Wilson is still leading the women's race, but Maria Holdcroft seems to have closed that gap. So yeah, it's not massive, probably 15-20 miles. So Jamie's through the checkpoint 3, heading on to that gravel parkour, and as we know, things can happen up there. You can get punches, and it is quite slow going. I suspect Maria will really close up once Jamie slows down on the parkour, but then it's a case of, I know Jamie is really good off-road. She's done an excellent result at GB Duro in the UK. She should be confident off-road. Not sure about Maria. I don't know much about her, to be honest. But I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. And then a little bit further, I mean, those two are duking it out for the win now. They've basically got a country almost, well, the other riders aren't yet in the country. And, there's a couple of riders here who are now chasing for that third position. So Joanna, she's in 51st overall, third in the women at the moment. And, of course... and then Susanna as well. She was up there a little bit the other day. Seems to have dropped off a little bit, as has Nikki Shaw. She's slightly dropped off the pace, but as we've seen in the once these riders hit Greece, it's not easy going. In Albania, it's just not easy going. So that's still all to play for. So yeah, that's a roundup of the riders and where they are at the moment. So the next section, we've seen Kristof is just reaching checkpoint 4 in Meteorola, which is where the Transcontinental Race has finished a couple of times. So there was, if you remember, the final parkour was split into 3 sections, or the section 4A, B and C. Section C, I mean, to be honest, section C is quite far away from A and B. To be honest, I would have called this parkour 5, because it's not really that linked to the other 2. But it starts directly out of Meteorola. Let's go to the little Google Man, because it is just fantastic up here. There's loads of monasteries built into the hillside. I think it's a UNESCO site, quite touristy, and as you can see, there's all these amazing rock formations and the buildings and monasteries built into them. So essentially the parkour takes the riders from the town up the mountains, and they get to see all this cool stuff, do some touristing, and then they've got to find their way through to the finish. So as you can see on the elevation here on Ride GPS, it is an uphill parkour, and then it's free route to the final parkour. The final parkour is a real long one. Thessaloniki is a fairly big city, and basically the organisers have taken the initiative. They've got, like I said, almost 90 miles, well, nearly 100-mile parkour to finish, taking riders in a nice, safe way. So it's not going to be simple. There's a bit of gravel in there as well, as you can see by the surfaces here. So it looks like the first section is gravel. Now, I don't know to what extent it is gravel, but going on previous form, the sections that the organisers have set as parkour that are gravel, it tends not to be too extreme. I suspect that's why the 4A and the 4B sectors were left to riders' discretion, because basically the organisers didn't want to get a load of flack for sending riders on some mountain bike tracks. They're not mountain bike tracks, by the way. Just in case you've coming from a road background, you can ride a hell of a lot more on a mountain bike than that. So I suspect these to be relatively straightforward. Again, you never do know, but I don't suspect it's going to be too rocky, and that should be a nice run in. Still a fair bit of climbing. There's this range of hills you've got to get through, so it's not an easy run in by any means, and a few little kickers just before the finish. Before running down into Thessaloniki, finishing on the seafront at the sailing club in the town centre. So it should be quite a pretty cool finish line for these riders, and a good reward for getting there. This is the route I would have done. Obviously not kind of my route planning hasn't been perfect, but you're passing through Mount Olympus. I have passed through this area going north to south before. The roads are pretty decent, to be honest, and it's a case of, as you can see from the terrain overlay here, just skirting around, trying to avoid the worst of it, and finding a nice flat route to get you into the finish. And then this flatter area before the final parkour. So that's what Kristof and Robin are probably going to be doing tomorrow. I suspect by tomorrow morning, 400 miles. Probably Kristof he might have finished by tomorrow. I reckon it'll be a late night. He'll want to ride all the way through now. So hopefully by tomorrow morning we'll be able to announce a winner. You do never know though. It is a transcontinental race. Things can happen. There were a few questions actually under yesterday's report. One of them about food and how the riders feed themselves, kind of what the rules are. And by some coincidence, the Transcontinental Race did an official kind of post around it. So the rules around resupply. So the second rule, there's a list of 10 rules regarding different things, which you can find on the website. No third-party support. All food, drink and equipment must be carried or acquired at commercially available services. So that essentially means riders can go to shops, restaurants, any place that kind of that anyone could go to, they're allowed to go to buy food. And ride in the spirit of self-reliance and equal opportunity. So basically, if you think you're doing something wrong and you're doing something that's not kind of an equal opportunity to everyone, then you probably are doing something wrong. That's the general rule there. And as you can see, it's just a case of sitting down and piling in the food when you can. It's double helpings by this stage in the race. That's Kristof. He is looking very tired. He's got his biscuits just topping up in a shop, and it's just, it's not high quality nutrition at this stage. You're just shoving in calories and hoping for the best. And yeah, that's all you can do at this stage. You're going to be way depleted on energy, and you're kind of on fumes, and you've just got to get the job done. So yeah, that's everything I had for today. Hopefully tomorrow we might have a winner in the race. So tune in tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe if you've been enjoying this and you want to see more of this kind of thing. And yeah, have a good day and see you in the morning.